Does summer turn into an all-day snack fest at your house? If your kids are constantly grazing nonstop, they're skipping real meals, and they're asking for popsicles every hour, this video is going to be for you. Today I'm sharing how to create a more balanced summer rhythm without being rigid. I'm Stephanie Grinke, registered dietitian, mama of 2 boys, and the author of the Mindset and Metabolism Substack. So let's get you set up for a summer where your family develops healthy habits while still allowing space for fun and having that sporadic summer that you look forward to. Now, last summer, I had a conversation with a mom. Let's call her a composite of about 100 moms I've spoken with because the story is so common. Now, she told me that every September, she feels like she spends the entire month basically reestablishing her kids' eating habits. Like, she has to undo the habits that accumulated over the summer. Her kids have lost interest in sitting down for meals. They're asking for snacks constantly, even right after meals, and they aren't as aware of their hunger or fullness cues. That sound familiar in your house too? Well, here's what typically happens. Summer starts and the routine disappears. Kids are home, they're bored, they're wandering around into the kitchen every 45 minutes. The pantry door becomes this revolving door. Then you're at the pool, you're at someone's grandma's house, they show up with a bag full of gummy bears and juice boxes. Now you're at a birthday party, then a barbecue, then a 4th of July cookout. It's all in the same weekend too. And none of this makes you a bad mom. It makes you a human navigating a fun season that genuinely disrupts your normal structure. And there are some things that you can put in place that will make a real difference. And that's what I want to share with you today. These are things that have worked in our house and for other families that I've talked to. The single most effective thing that you can do for a summer nutrition routine is to hold on some semblance of version of a meal structure. This may look different than what it looks like during the school year or at times that you have a more solid structure in place. So we're not talking about rigid meal times here. I'm talking about anchoring your day with 3 predictable points. You even have to call them breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you don't want to. So meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. These meals create a rhythm that helps your kids' bodies regulate hunger and fullness throughout the day. When there are no anchors, when you're just constantly snacking from morning to night, your kids will never feel hungry. They'll never feel fully satisfied. And this hunger fullness feedback loop stops working properly. And that's exactly how you end up with kids who aren't hungry for dinner, even though they haven't really had a real meal since maybe breakfast. Here's a practical approach. So in summer, try to eat meals at roughly consistent times. Within an hour window is totally fine. So if your family tends to wake up later, that's okay. Just shift everything back accordingly. So maybe breakfast is at 9, lunch or meal 2 is at 1, and dinner is at 6. So whatever works, the consistency is really the whole point of this. Now let's talk about grazing, because this is a real struggle in summer. Kids graze for a variety of reasons. They could be bored, it's habitual, or maybe they're genuinely hungry. Here are some strategies to overcome that. The first is to make meals more satisfying, right? A lot of summer grazing happens because kids are eating carb-heavy meals and snacks, so things like cereal or crackers or a piece of toast that don't provide lasting satiety. When you add protein and fat to your meals and snacks, your kids will stay fuller longer. So maybe that's scrambled eggs with their toast, nut butter with their crackers, maybe cheese with their fruit, Greek yogurt with their granola. These small shifts genuinely reduce the "I'm hungry again" cycle. Establish a designated snack time. 1 or 2, not all day. Rather than saying yes every time your child asks for a snack, you can say, "Yep, snack time is at 3. It's not 3 yet." You're not withholding food in these situations. You're helping their bodies develop more rhythmic hunger cues. Kids that graze all day have genuinely disorganized hunger signals because their bodies never got the chance to fully feel hunger. Okay, your snack station. This is another big thing for your summer. And you want to ideally set up a designated snack bin. Maybe that's in your fridge and one in your pantry, and stock it with pre-portioned healthy options that they like and you feel good about. So when it's time for snack time, they can choose from the bin. It takes negotiation out of your every snack interaction. It gives them autonomy and ownership, and you get to control what's in the bin. That's a win all around. And then keep kids occupied, right? This sounds obvious, but it's generally one of the biggest drivers of summer grazing, boredom. So if you have loose structure to the day, maybe like a morning activity, something physical in the afternoon, a creative project, or reading time later, that naturally reduces the number of times that your kid wanders into the kitchen looking for something else to do, and the fun thing to do is snack. Okay, social landscape. This is something that doesn't get discussed enough because you can have the most thoughtfully stocked kitchen in the neighborhood and you can still feel like you're fighting an uphill battle between May and August or whatever your kids are out of school. This can happen because loving friends and family maybe bring foods that you don't typically have at home. Maybe the neighborhood kids have chips and soda at the pool, or every event that you go to has a dessert, or your sister-in-law gives the kids soda at the barbecue without asking you. So first we gotta have a mindset reframe, right? Summer treats are not the enemy. That popsicle at the pool, that piece of birthday cake, that hot dog, these are all part of childhood, right? They're all a fun part of life. And the goal is never to eliminate treats entirely. The goal is really to make sure that they exist within the backdrop of mostly nourishing foods and they don't become the majority of what your kid eats. Here's how I think about it practically and nutritionally. So choose a mostly nutrient-dense framework for your house. I tell families to aim for meals and snacks that are nutritious most of the time, roughly 85% of the time, to leave room for the rest. When your foundation is solid, that treat at the pool or the cookout soda really doesn't derail anything. The problem is when it becomes stacked day after day, snack after snack, and there's really no foundation anymore. Number two, you can give kids language, right? For older kids especially, you can have a simple non-fear-based conversation. Saying something like, our family tries to eat things that make our bodies feel good most of the time, and sometimes we have treats because treats are fun, and that's part of life too. When you reframe that treats are normal, treats are finite, we eat well most of the time, it's a much healthier message than food is bad. And then for extended families, this is a hard one sometimes, but a simple warm heads up before a visit can work really well. So saying things like, we're trying to keep things a little bit more balanced in the summer. If you want to bring a treat, that's totally fine. Maybe just one rather than a whole slew of options. And a lot of grandparents do respect that when it's framed as a preference and not a criticism of what they're doing. And of course, give yourself grace, right? There's going to be lots of times where you come home from a weekend and you're like, what just happened? 1 week or 1 weekend doesn't undo a foundation. The long game is really what matters. Okay, let's talk about practical stuff now, because I know many of you are listening right now thinking, okay, I get that. I follow most of these things, but what do I actually feed everyone when it's hot outside and I would rather not turn on the oven, or the snacks are so easy and convenient when I'm trying to work and my kids are home? So here's a couple of things that we do. Number one is we do a Lunchable. This is one of my favorite summer lunch concerns because you're not turning on the oven or really having to cook. You're essentially building a grazing plate that's more balanced. So sometimes we look at this as like a charcuterie plate. So you can put protein on it. So sliced turkey, hard-boiled eggs, rotisserie chicken, salami, cottage cheese, and hummus. You can put healthy fats and proteins like cheese cubes, string cheese, nut butter with an apple. Maybe a crunchy element, because that's always fun in the summer, right? Crackers, cucumber slices, bell peppers, snack peas are all really fun here. And then a fruit, so something water-rich too. Grapes, watermelon, sliced peaches, whatever is in season and you can afford. And then a couple of other extra things that I like to throw on are olives, pickles, some dried fruit, and then a handful of nuts. I also like to do seaweed snacks if they're available. And kids really do love this. You can let them build their own plate. It feels special because it's a plate full of different things that they can kind of graze, but it's no cooking, no heating, easy cleanup, and it becomes balanced. Grain bowls are another one of my favorites. So I like to cook a big batch of grains or starches once a week. Things like quinoa, wild rice, roasted diced sweet potatoes, and then keep them in the fridge. And then your lunch or dinner can become that grain. You can pull it out and have it cold or warm it up. And then something from the fridge, like that rotisserie chicken, hard-boiled eggs, canned salmon, leftover beans, ground meat. Then you can put raw vegetables and a drizzle of your favorite sauce or dressing. It's so simple. Overnight oats can be also really nice. You prep them the night before. Your kids can bring them out the next morning and customize them with berries or nut butter, granola, honey, shredded coconut. They're higher in protein, especially if you use things like Greek yogurt and there's no cooking involved. And then smoothies. Of course, a good smoothie is great for the summer. Throwing in something that has protein, whether that's Greek yogurt or cottage cheese or protein powder or nut butter as your protein source, and then some fat like avocado, coconut milk, or nut butter, and then vegetables. You can make a snack a real legitimate meal. Cold pasta and green salads are another great summer meal for your family. You can make it once and honestly eat it for multiple days. Pasta salad with beans is great, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, olives, a simple vinaigrette on top, or maybe that's a cucumber salad with chickpeas and feta. And they actually can turn out better after they sit in the fridge for a while. And then snack ideas. So again, the goal isn't to completely eliminate snacking because kids usually do need snacks. They're growing and they're hungry, but doing things like maybe frozen fruit. So putting grapes in the freezer, my kids love that. Just make sure that they are appropriate age that they're not going to choke appropriately. Frozen mango chunks, my kids love. Frozen bananas that you can dip in nut butter, and then that's a delicious treat for them. You can put that smoothie into a popsicle if you don't eat all of it and make popsicle. Cucumbers with cream cheese and everything bagel seasoning can be fun. cheesecake quesadillas, they take a minute to make, and then a trail mix, so you can have your kids make their own trail mix. And yogurt parfaits, that's another one that kids can figure out how to make themselves with what they like. So in closing, summer doesn't have to mean full out nutritional chaos and no rules. But it also at the same time doesn't have to mean that you're being rigid or stressed out about food or the mom that says no to every single treat. Again, the goal is really that foundation that's solid enough that treats, the pool days, the grandma visits, the vacation, they all fit into a bigger picture that of a family that eats well and enjoys food. So you're not going to do this perfectly, neither am I, but you're going to go into summer more prepared than you were before you hit play on this episode, and that counts for a lot. Enjoy the sunshine, fun foods, and experiences, and I will see you next time. You've got this.